Several of his former coworkers claim that an Oregon man who's accused of drugging the smoothies his daughter's young friends were consuming during a sleepover has previously displayed potentially creepy behavior. We're talking about the criminal charges, the unsettling details from an affidavit, and more with a claimed personal injury and sex abuse attorney. 57-year-old Michael Maiden has been out of jail in Oregon on $50,000 bail since March after he was charged with multiple felonies. David Ring. Hey everyone. In a moment, we'll delve into the specifics of an extremely unsettling affidavit, and I want to caution everyone that there's no other way to put it. It will make your skin crawl. As I mentioned earlier, Maiden worked as a human resources manager for an energy company in Lake Wego, Oregon. According to a former coworker, some of the questions Maiden asked them about their personal lives seemed a little strange when they looked back. One male coworker told the Daily Mail and New York Post that Maiden always inquired about our families, asking about my kids' ages and interests in extracurricular activities before telling me about their activities. It seemed really innocent at the time. However, this same coworker claims that Maiden began liking his daughter's cheerleading photos on Facebook, asking questions about her and knowing my kids' names and ages. I thought he was just being nice, but after Maiden was arrested in March and the affidavit was made public, things took a very sinister turn. For that, let me introduce David Ring, acclaimed personal injury and sex abuse attorney. It's good to see you, David. According to the paper, therefore, at around 7 a.m. on August 26, a report of 3 female minors aged 12 was received by Portland's Randall Children's Hospital, prompting the dispatch of 2 officers. During a urine screen, they tested presumptively positive for benzodiazepine. The charged nurse from the emergency room made the report. The young people said they had gone to a sleepover at their friend's house on August 25, 2023, and they thought their friend's father, Michael Maiden, had given them narcotics without their knowledge. But clearly this guy is a predator. And for those of you who don't know their drug, it's commonly referred to as benzos, right? And it's a Valium Xanax. And it's the type of drug that if you take too much of it, it puts you into a deep sleep, can knock you unconscious. And clearly, this guy had a plan to have these girls rendered unconscious so he could do something terrible to them. I'm gonna get back to that because I'm not entirely clear what the plan was, if any. And to be clear, he's not charged with any sex crimes, right? He's only charged, and we'll get into the exact charges, but he's only charged with allegedly drugging these girls. But let's continue on. So the officer who wrote up this affidavit for the court did interviews with the girls and the parents. Quote, during these interviews, I learned none of the parties were particularly close with the Maiden family or had been inside of their home. The girls had attended the same school and had been acquainted. There, all the parents stated they communicated with Mr. Maiden regarding the sleepover. I learned Mr. Maiden is responsible for arranging most of his daughter's playdates. Plans because his wife speaks Japanese as her first language. The girls say that Mr. Maiden was really involved in what they did during the sleepover. Mr. Maiden has brought them out to eat pizza, get their nails done, and supervise their activities. The girls clarified that Mr. Maiden would frequently stop by to see how they were doing and would often interrupt them. The girl claimed that Mr. Maiden gave them instructions on how to take showers, get ready for bed, play in the sprinklers, and use the hot tub. According to the girls, most of their time was spent in the basement having a spa night and watching films while getting facials. There are 2 possible interpretations of that, don't you think? Because of this, the affidavit's wording reads as extremely suspect. However, there are lots of fathers who, as you may know, invite their children over for sleepovers. These daughters are 12 years old. Take that expression, okay? The parents are watching over them. Really, nothing really out of the ordinary strikes me there. To see what's going on, I believe we need to read more about it. Before I even get into it, let me clarify that, according to the girls, and David, before I even get into it, there could be credibility issues with any kind of witness, right? There could be credibility issues regardless of how old or how young they are, right? As we go through this, it goes on. Before they were instructed to go to bed, Mr. Maiden prepared a series of mango smoothies with orange and coconut flavors for them to drink. Okay, fair enough. And remember, he is not charged with anything, no sexual-related crimes, not touching them, anything like that. Mr. Maiden demanded that they sip them. 2 smoothies were given to each of the girls in glass milkshake-style cups. The smoothies were described as having small white bits scattered on top and throughout with a dull orange tint. It was said that the smoothie had a thinner liquid with bubbles in it. Mr. Maiden provided each girl a reusable straw of a different color so they could identify their own ink. Mr. Maiden insisted that the girls use their own glasses for drinking. Naturally, the names have been withheld, but the statement reads, "One victim claimed she used a hot pink reusable straw to drink 2 full cups of the orange-colored smoothie. A third person claimed she didn't like smoothies and just drank a small amount with a green or blue straw to be polite. The other person claimed she drank 1 cup of the orange-colored smoothie using an orange reusable straw. The third victim claimed that although Mr. Maiden had produced her a second smoothie and urged her to consume it, she had declined his advances. Furthermore, she added that Mr. Maiden became enraged when he accused the third victim and another victim of switching straws between their first and second cup. The fourth female remembered consuming a considerable quantity of the smoothie, although she was unsure of the exact amount. David appears a little suspicious to me, and here is where we've gone too far. Jesse, now things are getting strange and weird because now you have a dad who's injected himself, and it sounds to me by the reading of that he's basically pressuring these 12-year-old girls and forcing them to drink these smoothies. Now that's weird. That's creepy, red flag alert. Right, yeah. Well, here's the thing. If you thought this was already concerning enough, a man paying really close attention to the girls insisting they drink, these smoothies getting upset if one of them didn't follow the rules, it actually gets worse because the 12-year-olds, they go to sleep around midnight, 2 girls on the pull-out couch in the basement, 2 in a bed in the back bedroom. One of the victims explained that she and another victim were laying the same direction, and her arm was over that girl's body, and she stated at some point Mr. Maiden came downstairs, and she pretended to be asleep. She stated that he removed her arm from the other girl's body and then separated them by moving the other girl's body further towards the opposite side of the bed, and this concerned the victim so much that she rolled over and placed her arm on the other girl, and she remained awake in fear that Mr. Maiden was going to do something to her. She stated that Mr. Maiden went upstairs. She stated she remained awake, and sometime after Mr. Maiden returned downstairs to check on them again, so the victim stated that the second time Mr. Maiden came downstairs, he returned to the pull-out couch. She stated he moved her hand. Again, from the other girl, she said she saw Mr. Maiden in the dim light place his finger underneath her nose, as if to see if she was soundly asleep. He then waved his hand in front of her face. She stated she pretended to be asleep, and shortly after he walked toward the sliding glass door and went outside into the backyard. The victim said she was scared and began to text and call her parents repeatedly. Now the officer in the affidavit says, "I observed a series of text messages from the victim to her mother at 1:43 a.m. The woman was crying and sent multiple texts to friends asking for a ride. Her message to her mother was, 'Mom, please pick me up and say I had a family emergency. I don't feel safe. I might not respond, but please come get me.'" David, what's happening? There's a lot to sort through, Jesse, but see, this little child is the first thing that catches my attention. What a brave woman. I mean, to have the courage to realize something is wrong and to text her parents and to make it crystal clear that she needed to get out of there and was persistent about it. There's not a lot of kids that would do that. Adults have great sway over young kids, especially, if they're the parent of one of your friends. And most kids are just going to assume that. They have good intentions and they would just go along with it. So for this girl to realize how suspicious and creepy and wrong what this guy's actions were good for her. And clearly this predator, he had a plan. We'll get to it, I'm sure. But he had a plan. He's going down there twice to see if they're asleep. Let's talk about that again. He hasn't been charged with touching the girls, any sex crimes. He's only been charged with drugging them. I say only charge. I mean, that's pretty serious set of felonies. But I don't understand what was going on here, what the motive would be to do this. What's your take? And again, it's pure speculation at this point because we just don't know. Well, I don't think it's pure speculation. I mean, I think I've been around enough cases that this guy had a plan. And his plan was to render these girls essentially unconscious and sexually assault one of them. That's what I think was going on. And thank God he didn't do that. He didn't get away with it. Therefore, no charges for sexual assault, and he went outside. And he went outside at one point and then came back in. It's such a weird situation. It's weird, but clearly he had some plan to take advantage of them in an unconscious state. And what could that possibly be? What's the plan? I mean, the only one that leaps to my mind is he's going to sexually assault one of girls in some way. But you wouldn't be able to charge that without more, right? Without more, you wouldn't be able to prove that exactly because he didn't get away with it. Thank God he didn't get away with it. You know, he didn't, this girl was able to put an end to it before he got that far. But the charges that the counts he's charged with are very, very serious. They're felonies, and he's going to go to prison for a while. We'll get to that in a second. I want to continue on with the affidavit, what happened next. So she stated this victim, Mr. Maiden, returned from the sliding glass door, stood near the headboard. For what she thought was 15 minutes, she stated she could feel him watching her by his presence as she kept her eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. She said when he finally went upstairs, she continued trying to get a hold of anyone she could to pick her up. The girl did manage to get a hold. If a family friend explained what was happening. So the friend agreed to come get her, and get this. According to the affidavit, the preteen says that Maiden came down to the basement. A third time he went into the bathroom, and she said this bathroom had an adjoining door to the bedroom that the other two girls were in. And she was concerned for the other two girls in the bedroom, so the victim states when she received a text message that the family friend was outside, Mr. Maiden came out of the bathroom. The victim stated she immediately told him she had a family emergency and she was being picked up, she stated. Mr. Maiden seemed drunk and explained he murmured and slurred his response. He did not prevent her from leaving. She stated that she went into the garage to retrieve her shoes using a very loud door. She said she was concerned. When the other girls didn't wake up, that's why she apparently slammed the door. So when the 12-year-old got home, she woke up her parents from the redaction. It's difficult to tell exactly what's going on, but they're trying to call the parents of the other girls, and at least 2 of the other parents were unable to be reached, so they headed to Maiden's house around 3:00 a.m. The affidavit says that a mother appears to be a mother knocked on the door. Was met by Mr. Maiden. She explained to him she was there to take the girls home. He replied, "I don't understand." Mr. Maiden stated he would go check on the girls. The mother stood at the front door while Mr. Maiden went back into the house, and after a few minutes he returned, stated the girls were asleep, insisted she come back in the morning. Fortunately, they were able to convince Maiden to show them where the girls were sleeping. They woke up the 2 remaining guests, apparently leaving Maiden's daughter there in the home. David, your reaction to that next part? Well, okay. Couple reactions. One, again, fantastic work by these parents who didn't just go, "Oh, come on. You're exaggerating this. There's no way this guy did anything like that and the other girls are fine." Instead, they believed their daughter and actually took action, going over to the other girls' house and demanding that they be taken out so they could be taken to their parents. The wife is where? How is she connected to all of this? With everyone hammering on his door and a girl slamming it to depart, how does he manage to get away with it all? In all of this, where is the wife? I see that as an eyebrow raiser. It's a valid query. On that one, perhaps there will be more answers to come. But going back to this document, it appears that the officer spoke with another child at noon on Saturday, which is roughly 12 hours after she consumed the smoothies. According to the statement, she walks slowly and uses her mother's help for balance. She spoke slowly, her eyes heavy, and she remembered feeling hot, dizzy, and unsteady shortly after she had consumed that second smoothie. The victim said that she went into a profound, deep slumber that she had never experienced before the officer, but she was unable to remember what happened after she blacked out. States, "I know that none the juveniles are prescribed, have access to, or experiment with recreational drugs or benzodiazepines based on my interactions with parents and young people. Mr. Maiden, I think I have a good reason to believe this to be true." He faces 3 felony counts of forcing another person to take a controlled substance when it was discovered that benzodiazepines were delivered covertly, and that he was accountable for the drugs detected in the juvenile's body. 3 felonies for applying a controlled substance schedule to a juvenile's body, and 3 misdemeanors for giving a controlled substance schedule to a minor were committed. We do know that Maiden and his wife got divorced a few months after the incident, but Aid doesn't say where Maiden's wife was during it all. In any case, Maiden is scheduled to return to court next month before being arrested. Talk to me about these accusations and whether there is a plausible innocent defense to this, as it appears quite obvious that they were in possession of these chemicals. Based on the officer's statement, there is no indication that they were given a prescription or that they were misusing this on their own. Shakes and smoothies were the only ways for them to get this into their systems. Is there a defense of any kind? Is there a harmless reason why this would occur? I don't see any defense to that. Look, these are very, very powerful drugs. I mean, let's assume it's Valium or Xanax. That's basically what we're talking about when we talk about benzos, and obviously those are prescribed. And you're supposed to take low dosage of those, so if he is mixing that up into a smoothie, and he's putting several of those pills in each smoothie, that's going to have the exact effect that girl described. Where she basically is in the deepest sleep of her life and is in a trance and feels like she's unconscious and has difficulty moving. And so it seems crystal clear that the way that these girls were given those benzos was through the smoothies. And who was the person directing them to drink the smoothies and had them all separated out with colored straws? The perpetrator, this dad. I mean, he clearly had a plan to get them to knock them unconscious. First of all, how serious are these charges? What are we looking at in terms of potential punishment, And is this the type of case where he would ultimately take a deal? And what would a deal look like? These are really significant accusations. I mean, it's a weird name, causing another person to ingest a controlled substance. But that's a technical legal name. But the bottom line is, those are serious felonies, and he's charged with several of them, and so he's facing significant jail or prison time for these. And look, I think if he rolled the dice and somehow went to trial and offered up some sort of lame explanation of his role in all of this, I don't see anybody buying his story. And the outrage factor, any parent out there, any person out there who hears this just like you and I, have the same reaction. It's just pure outrage. And they are going to throw the book at this guy to make sure he is off the streets and in prison where he belongs. Well, listen, I don't know what could have happened next. I don't even want to imagine what could have happened next. All I know is, I agree with you, brave actions from that girl to do that. This is a horrifying case. It's even difficult for me to go through that affidavit, some of the more creepy details I've heard in quite some time, David Ring. Thanks so much for coming on and giving your perspective. I wish the case we were discussing was of a different nature, but regardless, thanks for watching Gossip Now.